All right. Welcome back. Episode 2 of Making a Board Game. Where we left off last time, I was thinking about mechanics. Uh, it's been 2 days or so since the last one I recorded. I saw Superman. It was all right. I liked it. It was very entertaining for a Sunday evening. But I digress. Now it is time to get into board game mode. So, mechanics. Yes, the story booklet, the big missions, small missions. What other mechanics and systems do I want and do I like? Um, I think definitely playing cards. Playing cards from your hand is nice. Um, do I want to be moving pieces around on a board or not? Or something in between? Hmm, I don't know. I'm not sold on the idea. I need to get more of a feel for like what's the story here, really? Because the whole thing is like a cooperative story game, which I like. That's why I put story booklet at number one, because I like it. Um, Let me think here. What's the story? Superheroes? Maybe? Maybe superheroes? You get to be a superhero? Maybe. I like it. I like it. I like it. You get to be a superhero. Hmm if you if you got to be a superhero but you got to like make it yourself almost. Like like in Sentinels of the Multiverse, there's like a bunch of like pre-made superheroes, like they have a pre-made deck and everything. What I think would be cool is if as you played the game, you got to flesh out your character more depending on what cards you have. And I like that. I really do like that. Um, hmm. Something I just thought of, and something that popped in my game. I have another favorite board game that I completely failed to mention that I'm just remembering now. Called Arc Nova. And Arc Nova is a really fun, very, I wouldn't say very complex. It's complex. It's about as complex as Arkham Horror, I'd say. Uh, Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. So in the ballpark of Arkham Horror in terms of complexity. But it's a zoo, it's like a competitive zoo builder. You get like your own little zoo layout, and then you build enclosures and get animals and get sponsors for your zoo and do all these conservation projects. It's a very nice game, very fun to play with friends. I recommend you check it out if you like longer, little more complicated games with animals. Uh, but what sticks out to me about Arc Nova is that you at the beginning of the game you're sort of given general goals to complete in your zoo for like victory points at the end of the game, and then kind of depending on the cards that you draw at the start of the game, like four animals and four sponsors and stuff. That's how you get them, is that there's a bunch of cards with animals and sponsors on them. Depending on what you get there, you kind of pivot your strategy to suit your opening hand because you really want to start out strong in that game, or else you're just going to be chasing people. Uh, so you can't really go into it with a plan. You just got to get familiar with it and then stick stick to your guns, really. Stick with the hand that you're dealt as best as you can. If you see, like, if an opportunity comes along and you get like a really good animal that you can kind of fit into your zoo, you can pivot and do that to get more points. It's all about knowing kind of when to pivot and then knowing when to just work with what you've got and not chase. Um, and it's a really cool design. I really like that aspect of it, where you're kind of given a rough layout at the start, and then you can choose whether or not you want to kind of go with that and see what that kind of gets you, or would you want to like pivot and go do something else if like a better opportunity shows up due to the randomness of the game. So I don't know what I'd call that, probably like stick and pivot mentality. Stick or pivot, stick or pivot mentality. Uh, Animals, not so much. I think I like the superhero thing, and I think I like if you were what I'm imagining is that if you're playing this game, and let's say you get like an initial hand of like, I don't know, like gear or something, then you would kind of think about like, okay, this gear is pretty cool and I like it. What does that mean for my character, and how do I play the game? How do I win in this game with the stuff that I'm given? Uh Maybe. I kind of like that. I like that. Like if you're given if you're given like a grapple gun, like let's just say you draw a card at the start of the game and it's like a grapple gun and it's some kind of utility that lets you, I don't know, just lets you travel like from place to place very very quickly, or quicker than you normally could in the game, let's say. Then you would kind of, I guess you would kind of be inclined by the design of the game to be a much more like agile superhero, right? You kind of imagine yourself as going from like one crime to the next in the city streets, and you're just kind of going around picking off guys one by one, evildoers and such. Uh, I kind of like that. If you're given like rocket boots, it'd be the same thing, but it's like a different kind of techie vibe to it. So you've got a certain proclivity to do something along those lines. Um, then again, one of the drawbacks I can think about this approach, I'm gonna write this down in like a random ideas thing. Grapple gun, agile hero capabilities, uh, rocket boots, agile tech hero alignment, I guess. But one of the drawbacks I can think about this is that excuse me, if if there are too many like things that you could spec into, it gets kind of bogged down in terms of like what kind of superhero you can go for because of the randomness of just drawing a bunch of cards. So I think if there was a way to somehow like take the cards that you have and turn them into cards that you want for a cost, I think that would help. if there's like a lot of stuff. Like if you had, let's say you're playing this game and you're kind of, let's say you're kind of like this, I don't know, like genetic freak type character who like spits acid as like one of their superpowers or something. Like that's kind of your shtick in the game. That's kind of your niche, and that's kind of your quote unquote like engine for getting you points in the game. It's like your style, I guess. And you find that you're drawing a lot of like tech cards. Like you're drawing a lot of stuff that wouldn't be on theme for what you're currently doing. Uh and it kind of messes with your whole shtick of being like an acid spitting like kind of lumbering genetic freak type character. Um, like you got like I don't know like cool neon like body armor tech stuff. You've got like a card that's like a shoulder turret or something like War Machine from Marvel or something. And it doesn't like fit. I feel like you would either now I guess there's two ways you could go about it. You could either do what I was saying earlier and there would be some system in place for you to take those cards that you don't want and like trash them in exchange for like going to find some card that you do want, uh, which I guess is fine if you want to like stick with your niche. What you could also do is maybe you're encouraged to like evolve as a hero or change it up. So like instead of like maybe you started out as like this lumbering, hulking, genetic freak, acid spitting type character, whatever the hell. And then as you find that you're drawing more tech cards, you kind of start working them into your build because you're like, oh, I have this cool armor and I have this cool turret, and those could get me some other points if they can like combo together for like some kind of a like side tech bonus type thing. And then you could be like instead of that, like I don't know, maybe like building on like the story aspect where you're like building it in your brain. Maybe it's like you started out as this kind of like hulking genetic freak type character, and then over time, as you got better at fighting crime, you kind of used your brain a little more and created like this kind of biomech suit of armor that kind of channels your acid spit into like turrets and stuff so you like shoot out whatever damage like whatever like acid damage or something. I think that would be cool. That would be gnarly. Like if you could just modularly evolve as a hero. uh I think that's cool. I like that. I really like that. Let's modularly evolve as a hero through the course of the game. Because that way, because if you did that, right, and you picked out something like in the beginning and you stuck with it, I feel like once you get like comfortable with that, you're just gonna keep doing that over and over again. You're never gonna really branch out and see what else like what other play styles the game has, and you're never incentivized to like try something new and kind of work with what you have, right? I think that's nice. I would kind of work in how to do that. I really like that. I really like that. Um, so with that being said, this is like a core idea. I think this isn't so much a random idea. This would be like I'm gonna actually put this. I'm gonna put this higher up. I'm gonna put this here. Core ideas. Uh, Modularly evolve as a hero throughout the course of the game. You want to do that? what's the goal here? Fighting bad guys. Duh. You fight bad guys as a superhero. Um, you fight bad guys. You fight supervillains is what you do. That's what you do as a hero. You fight supervillains. Yeah, you fight supervillains. Fight supervillains. Maybe maybe you fight like low-level villains first, and then you work your way up to fighting supervillains. Or maybe you just go and fight supervillain. I don't know. You would get your ass handed to you if you fought a supervillain. You were like, quote unquote, low level, which wouldn't be fun. You wouldn't want to do that. Uh, maybe I don't know. Who's to say, really? Um, hmm, interesting. Interesting. Fighting supervillains. Fight villains and supervillains. Hmm. Maybe, maybe I'm formulating it in my brain how I want to articulate this. Maybe in Betrayal at House on the Hill, the story booklet there changes the game from exploring the house to fighting the evil people. And I think I could do something similar with that where in the normal game, while you're doing stuff, you're fighting villains for points. And then eventually, through some undetermined means at this point, you hmm, I don't know, let me think. Okay, I think I've got it. So what's going to happen is as you're playing the game, there's going to be some system where you're first going to be fighting just villains, like common street thugs, uh, other assorted terrible guys or whatever. And as you're fighting them, over time, you're going to get stronger as a hero. So I think sort of built into the villains themselves is going to be like some like hero ranking. So like you kind of collect them as you defeat them. And then depending on like cards that you play or some other mechanic that I haven't quite fleshed out yet, you will eventually pivot and kind of stop playing this version of the game and look in the story booklet to see what supervillain is going to be attacking. Like a single supervillain. There's going to be, I don't know, a couple of supervillains. And sort of depending on some kind of criteria, you're going to figure out what supervillain you're fighting and what like evil plan they're concocting and that you have to thwart. Just so it's not like Betrayal where you have to come up with like a bunch of different very unique scenarios. Instead, it's much more modular where you have uh it's much more combinatorial where it's like you have a pool of supervillains and you have a pool of agendas sort of tailored to those supervillains. Like one supervillain could have like three different plans, or there could be like one supervillain whose only goal is to take over the world, and he only has the one, uh, like the one plan or something. And there's like a different distribution of villains depending on like who it is and what their motives are and like who they are as a villain. And then that's where you got to work together with your friends to like defeat them. And so like over here in the first part, you're just fighting these villains kind of yourself, and then everyone in the end is kind of fighting this supervillain, it would seem. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, fight villains in phase one, I guess, and fight supervillain in phase two, and then end the game once he's defeated or once everyone in the game is defeated. I like that. I do. And I think that has a lot of replay value because you're never going to be playing the same hero that you played the last time, and you're never going to be playing against the same supervillain probably. Uh, and you'll fight villains and you'll evolve, and the game will feel very fresh every time you do it. It's like a completely new story every time that you play. And I think that's good. I think that's two really good core ideas. How much are we at? 20 minutes? That's pretty good. That's very good. I like that. I think that kind of coincides with like the big mission, small mission, where it's like I guess in a different sense than what I talked about earlier. Your small missions are going to be fighting these villains the first time, and then your big mission is going to be fighting this supervillain in phase two. I really like that. I'm gonna take that out because it's kind of implied in the core ideas. Um, okay. I think some okay, so mechanics of these core ideas. You're gonna need a story booklet. We're gonna be playing cards. Um, I guess that's a little vague. You're gonna be mm, you're going to flesh out your hero by playing cards. Yes. So you're going to flesh out your hero by playing cards. Um, there's going to have to be some kind of combat system for sure. Maybe that's what I do. Instead I just give like a general overview of what kind of system it needs to be. So you need a combat system, you're going to need a storybook, you're going to need different hero equipment, powers, um, traits, etc., etc., etc. Different hero equipment, powers, traits. No, not trats. Traits with an I. You need a combat system to fight. Hmm. Oh, ooh, this is a good one. Hang on. Uh, forming superhero groups with your friends. Um, like maybe at some point you can like choose to uh like form like a superhero group like the Justice League. You know how like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, they're all superheroes, but then they're all part of the Justice League, and they fight crime like together as a group instead of individually. But like Batman can still go off and like fight bad guys on his own. He's just part of the Justice League too. So it's not like you're always doing exactly what the group is saying unless like you want to. So there's that. I think that would be cool. If like at a certain point you could like team up with a fellow hero in the game in like your own little micro group and like score points that way as like a bit of an alliance type of deal. That would be very cool. Uh, I don't know how competitive that would get. I don't know how like that's probably very exclusionary and kind of undermines the cooperativeness of the game. Uh, I don't know. Maybe that's just kind of like maybe that's more of like an implied thing that you could do, like in the realm of the game and in the story of the game, you could just decide to be like friends with someone because you're both doing some of the same like hero work in the same places or something. Maybe like incentivizing that and not explicitly stating it, I think um is good. That's nice. Um what else? What else? To fit the core mechanics here, you need to evolve. I feel like there needs to be like a map, not a a map. There needs to be a map of some location. I think like going quote unquote going to different places and fighting crime. Maybe like a city or something like New York, kind of like New York, but fake. Um, where it's like that's kind of where all like this like how all the Marvel there's like a bunch of Marvel superheroes that are just in New York. Um, like that's like their hunting ground. Not hunting ground, but it's like where they are. Like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's in New York. Uh, I know like the Punisher and like Daredevil. I think there's like a whole like conglomerate. I don't remember what they're called, but there's like a whole conglomerate of like superheroes in New York that just chill there and they're like a crime fighting like legion almost. I don't know what the name of that is. I remember something along those lines. You get a map of some location. So like you can go to different places in the city and fight crime and possibly like do different things in that location of the city. I don't know. Maybe. I'll keep it in mind. City? Probably city. Some city. New York style city. God, I can't type. I'm illiterate. Um for traveling. Yeah, traveling. Um I think that's nice. I think that's a cool thing. Like you have your hero, you have a system of going around in this city, and then you have this combat system where you can fight crime. And as these are all working together, eventually you get to the concept of the story booklet, where that introduces some big villainous plan from some supervillain, and then you're just in the clear. Then you start fighting him and working through all of this. I think that's very, very cool and nice. And I think there's enough complexity with that. Or you can build in enough complexity with this to make it like interesting and such. I think that's good. Um okay. I think that's a really nice I have like an idea in my brain of kind of how it looks. Um where you have this board with different locations on it and you can like move your piece between those different locations. And then at those locations, there are villains to fight, or there are encounters that you have um, to fight them and to gain like experience as a hero. And then eventually you take this supervillain thing into account later in the game and go from there. Okay. Nice. Cool. Um I guess the next thing I would want to do is kind of flesh out more of like what these different systems kind of entail. So I guess we'll say system breakdown. Breakdown. Thank you. No, there we go. So let's work on the story booklet first. Let me write all this down. Story booklet. Um. Oh, a bullet list. That's nice. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm in an MD file. I can turn this into a subsection. Yeah, there we go. Story booklet. A collection of new rules implemented later in the game that changes the main objective of the players to fighting a supervillain. Uh, the booklet outlines which supervillain. I'm gonna capitalize this. This seems like a keyword kind of thing for later. The booklet outlines which supervillain is present in the game, which and which scheme they are plotting. The heroes must work together in order to overcome this threat, whatever it might be. Okay. Yes. Okay. There are numerous supervillains, each with a selection of a couple of schemes in capital, and which scheme, and a couple, and each with a selection of schemes, not a couple of schemes, each with a selection of schemes that are possible in every game. These schemes follow, no, follow a general theme relating to the supervillain they are attached to. These schemes also come with their own rule changes depending on the complexity of the scheme. This will require I guess, specialty game pieces and mechanics to make each supervillain feel unique and fun to play against and discover. I like that. Yes. Like you're like one of the guys is like a mad scientist, and one of his schemes is that he has a death ray. And then one of his other schemes is that he's building this like legion of like killer robots. And one of these schemes is that he's trying to like open a black hole on Earth or something. Like I don't know. Stuff like that. And there's different like tokens or something that you can put on the board to represent whatever scheme is going on. So it's like in my head, in my head I'm thinking like, okay, there's going to be a lot of there's going to be a couple of like tech oriented villains, and they're usually probably going to have a scheme relating to building some kind of massive device. So I would think that there would be some kind of either game piece or token or card or something to denote like a general big device. And then depending on the context of the story booklet, that device piece is like a death ray, or it's like a bomb, or it's like some kind of battery or something. Like there's a lot of generality with that, and it's very like reusable depending on the context in which you put it in place. So like the story booklet would then instruct you like, okay, you're fighting, so it'll give you like a story overview, get you in the mood to fight this guy, and then it'll have like a little section in there that says, okay, grab grab like as a setup for the supervillain, grab the device token from the box and put it in X location or something. And then you just kind of move you read along as to how to set up the villain, and then you're good. I think that's nice. I think that's very nice. I really do like that. How much time are we at here? 37 minutes. I think that's a good place to stop for today for this episode. I think I think once I work on the system breakdown a little more for each of these things, it's all going to flesh itself out. But I'm getting some really good ideas for this. I'm getting very inspired. So, yeah, this is starting to turn out. I can see it. The important thing is that I can see it and I can make it work. That'll be good.